Let's go. The Eagles got the bald eagle back, and it's actually a bigger get than you might realize. Meanwhile, some other news around the NFL is pointing toward a Josh Sweat and Milton Williams departure. Also, what Darius Slay said recently, along with CJ Gardner-Johnson's response, could ultimately close the door for Slay. In this video, I'll break down what was said, how it impacts Philly, and what the next move will be for the Birds. So let's get into it. But first, let's run it. Alright, let's not waste any time. The bald eagle is back, and that move pretty much left everyone else in shambles. For example, like the take from Brett Coleman, who said the Eagles just play a different game than everyone else.
The game is out there, and it's either play or get played.
Yeah, well, not only does Howie operate in basically a completely different universe, but this team's got a bunch of dogs. Look, in case you didn't hear, Derek Gunn shared that Brandon Graham re-tore his triceps in the Super Bowl and played through it. Of course, those that remember the recap and live stream afterward know we had mentioned that as a rumor, but now it's been confirmed. Meaning you not only had BG do that, but also Nolan Smith tear his tricep as well and play the entire second half. Which, by the way, speaking of Nolan Smith, shout out to BDR 2024 for winning the signed Nolan Smith helmet during the live stream. I just need you to respond back down in the pinned comment so that I can get your information and ship the helmet out to you. Also, for everyone else, stay tuned because we've got some things planned in the future, plus if I don't hear back from BDR by my next live stream, then I'll have to give it to someone else. So, as always, drop a like on this video and let me know how you're feeling about the latest news. Oh, at this point, hopefully it goes without saying, but please stay alert for scammers. Do not give out any information. I don't ask for sensitive information. I'm certainly not going to ask you to pay for anything. Anyway, on the topic of paying, let's get back to Zack Baun, because this dude got paid and he absolutely deserved it. With the Eagles and one of their biggest leaders of the defense coming to an agreement on a 3-year, $51 million deal worth $34 million guaranteed, which for the record makes Baun the 4th highest paid off-ball linebacker in the league and by far the highest paid linebacker in Eagles history. FYI, the previous record for an Eagles linebacker was Nigel Bradham's 5-year, $40 million contract back in 2018. Of course, if you've been following or checking in on the live streams, then you know that's about the number I suggested all the way back in mid-February on the prediction of his contract. Since, it's not like this dude just had a good season, he had one of the best seasons ever by a linebacker. And like we've talked about, when it comes to Vic Fangio's defense, the first priority is getting lights-out play from the linebacker spot.
He wants perfection, right? Like, through and through. And you can tell in the players that he recruits. Zack Baun, one of the smartest linebackers I've ever played with, I've ever seen play. Nakobe Dean, one of the most instinctual players I've ever seen. Oren Burke, so detailed, it's insane. But it's all because of BK, who's a linebacker coach, but then Vic Fangio. Like, he knows that in order for his defense to work, he has to have an insane linebacker.
The crazy part to this is that here you have a guy who signed a $3.5 million contract for 1 year to play in Philly, and remember, he had only played special teams. Into his 5th year of his NFL career, only played basically special teams. Yet Baun ended up winning All-Pro and made Defensive Player of the Year finalist thanks to 151 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 11 tackles for loss, and just being a menace all over the field. Look, even with it only being one season, it's not hyperbole to say the bald eagle is already one of the smartest linebackers in the league. But sure, I know the fear from some comments I've seen is, man, I hope he's not a one-hit wonder. Except honestly, my argument would be there's a legit possibility that he continues to elevate his play and everyone else around him. Heck, all he got was 1 year in Fangio's defense, where now he gets another 3 seasons to hone his craft and fully master Fangio's concepts. By the way, with the latest signing, the Eagles now have 9 defensive starters under contract through 2025, or, 8, I guess, depending on where you see Nakobe Dean. But still, 9 guys, you think about that. Out of the 11 potentials, you have that many returning from the number 1 defense. And I didn't even get into the timing of this whole thing. Think about this. We know Zack Baun wanted to be in Philly. I mean, he said it multiple times in interviews, and the writing was on the wall. However, being so close to legal tampering beginning could have been a dangerous game for the Eagles, because this was the one major area that the Birds don't necessarily have a lot of depth in. And Diana Rossini and others reported that there were other teams lurking and waiting to speak with Baun. Except, after how he made the move, then the call they got wasn't the one they were expecting.
I was wondering when you were going to make this call.
Look, I said this on the live stream when the news first broke, but this was the move that everyone was waiting for. Everything else beyond this is just gravy. Of course, the part that's kind of crazy in all of this is who could have imagined Howie Roseman paying a linebacker and a running back $37 million combined in one season, yet here we are. And let's just say the league definitely didn't see that coming, since a lot of analysts continue to question Howie's resolve to pay that much for a linebacker. Again, the Eagles are playing 4D chess while a lot of other teams can't really figure out their next move. like the New York Giants and Joe Schoen, for instance. Because I think it tells you all you need to know about a team's plan when reports from the NFL Combine were that New York was so in on Matthew Stafford that they even hired his brother-in-law to be their assistant quarterback coach. And not only that, but the Giants agreed to a number for Stafford's contract and even hit the Rams' trade demands. But instead of spreading the news he was leaving, Stafford ultimately decided to stay in LA, forcing Schoen to make a brand new start of it.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
You almost feel bad for the Giants at this point, but honestly, this may sound crazy, but the struggle for Joe Schoen is he's trying to win now to save his job. Yes, the goal is always to win, although there's several other moves that could have saved it prior and not come to this point. Yet the fact that not long after missing on Stafford, the Giants began to be linked as a likely team to trade up to 1 and take Cam Ward kind of makes you think everything is reactionary, and once again, Schoen doesn't have a clear plan. Heck, remember New York also went as far as speaking with Aaron Rodgers. Granted, I don't know what's worse, honestly, that or the lunacy from Jerry Jones that the Cowboys will not be aggressive in free agency. Saying I don't think aggressive is the right word and that he's not looking at free agency as a place to fill voids.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Well, I don't know what else free agency's there for, but, hey, Jerry, you keep doing you. This feels like the constant, unreal theme of, just the gift that keeps on giving. Meanwhile, the Commanders are ones who show more aggression by acquiring Deebo Samuel. Yet I talked about that in a past video, and personally don't feel like Deebo's a game changer, which is apparently how most of the league feels about Jonathan Allen, since Washington initially gave the defensive tackle permission to find a trade partner. But the latest report from Michael Silver is with things not gaining traction, the Commies will likely release Allen to save $16 million in cap space. Now, on one hand, Washington is clearly the biggest competition to the Eagles in the NFC East, but also at the same time, they have some significant holes, especially on the defense, to take care of. Yes, they will be bidding for Myles Garrett. But come on, this is the same unit that couldn't stop Saquon Barkley and the Eagles' ground game in 3 tries last season. Long way to go in the offseason, sure, yet in my opinion, I wouldn't go as far to say the Commanders are near as close to the Eagles as some others have. Plus, Howie's not even close to being done. And with somewhere around the mid-20s in cap space remaining, we're going to see a few more moves. And most likely see those before next week. I mean, if I had to guess, because I've been asked a couple different times already, I feel like we're going to get a Mekhi Becton deal done pretty soon. After all, if you want to run it back with the running game, then you got to sign the dude who Saquon averaged close to 7 yards per carry when running behind him. And that's not to mention the fact that multiple reporters have suggested he might be open to taking a Philly discount. Also, the other factor to all of this is seeing the Chicago Bears trade the Kansas City Chiefs for left guard Joe Thuney. Now, I know not the exact same position, but I think it's pretty telling when a team in need of serious O-line help is trading for a player instead of looking into the free agency market just a few days away. So again, if the league isn't valuing Mekhi Becton and other guards on the table, then, perhaps his asking price isn't quite as high as we initially thought. Anyway, I could also see a Cam Jurgens contract get done soon, because, lock him up long-term and get the O-line solidified for the future. And I could also see a Dallas Goedert contract restructuring, since like Zack Baun pointed out, even though the tight end is under contract, he has no guaranteed money. So by restructuring, the Eagles could free up a little cap space and give Goedert some freedom knowing there's something a little more certain. Next, of course, I will continue to push the idea of signing back Isaiah Rodgers, because he offers too much to let go, plus he's familiar with Vic Fangio's system, which is huge. Now I get it, even with Darius Slay being released, there's the hope he could return and run it back for one final season in Philly. Which isn't impossible, it just needs to match up financially.
The money equal and everything is equal. It's Philly for sure. It could be whatever. You know what I'm saying? As long as the money nice. If anything, if Philly doing what I want to do, we in Philly again.
First off, I don't personally see a world where this happens. Look, Slay played great and definitely has some games left, but the Eagles have resources elsewhere. Yet if that wasn't enough, some are now saying Slay's comments about who the leader in the secondary is probably sealed his fate.
I won't be surprised if Reed and them guys like Reed can, advance these guys. Reed being around me and a lot of other veterans that been here before. And I'm sure he could lead that group the right way. So that's who I feel will be leading the group is if we're finding in that building is Reed Blankenship, because he's a great leader. You know what I'm saying? He is a great damn leader. If they bring another veteran in that's already been playing a lot, I could see them coming in and being a leader as well. But for sure, if I'm not in that room, Reed Blankenship, will be a great, tremendous leader.
Okay, so if you're not fully tracking or haven't caught on yet, those comments led to a lot of speculation about what set off CJ Gardner-Johnson, as not long afterwards, CJ posted to Twitter saying the slick sneak dissing is crazy. Now, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, and you could argue that it was for something else. Except then the follow-up from CJ to say vet presences is always needed, but what vet is needed when young guys can hold their own? While going on to mention several members of the secondary without Slay is probably all you need to know. I mean, the sad part is this isn't the first time that Slay's dissed CJ. Since in case you don't recall, Slay went on the Micah Parsons podcast during the bye week and threw CJ under the bus for giving up a touchdown after talking smack.
Man, your dog CJ, man, he had some stuff said before the game. He struck again, bro.
Man, bro, that's my dog.
And before we get into this, bro, I'm not trying to, like, y'all know, bro, I'm all positive, bro. I'm not trying to attack CJ at all. Right. I know he took what I said personally. And, you know, before I even get into it, who we think he is, like, in terms of how we feel, bro, like, we all in the NFL. How one of us saying that another person don't belong here, they just that type of person. Like, you feel me though? Like, even with a Pro Bowl, all pro, like, you know, we still could be humbled at any moment. Like, we still gonna get beat. I'ma still get locked up maybe for a game or a rep. You know, it's just a game of football. It's just how it happens.
It happens.
So, like,
man.
What's your thought on that, bro? Like,
yeah, hey, one thing I know about 8, man. 8 go bring the noise. 8 go bring the energy. And 8 go bring all the trash talking that half the team's not doing. So he fulfilled that need for us. You know what I'm saying? He a guy with a lot of energy. He go talk that trash, but, you know, hey, you go talk, you got to back it up at some point in time. And if you don't, he know for sure that media go catch it on the attention, and he got to be ready to answer every time. Because if he don't, the media go on his ass every time. But you know what's up with him, man. You know what's up with him. He go do it. Now, hey, I told him, do your thing, man. But, hey, you know now, you don't perform the way you want to perform, they're going to get back on you.
Of course, we were eventually told everything was resolved, but now with something like this resurfacing, it naturally stirred up the masses. By the way, Slay did end up responding to say we just won the Super Bowl together and that he doesn't have a problem with CJ. It's just that Reed is on the leadership council, so that's why he said that. But at the end of the day, it's all love.
Everybody love everybody. Right there up on the wall. Got that, Monix? Nope.
I mean, no matter how you feel, CJGJ is a huge force of this defense. After all, say what you will about CD, but that dude brings the energy and passion every play. And even though he may not be the best player on defense, there's no question when he left in 23, this unit was severely missing that swagger and fire. Also, yes, I've been critical of Slay for his communication in the past, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again. It ultimately comes down to you have one guy still on a contract on your team and one guy who's set to be a free agent. Now, could they talk it out like men, and should they? Sure. Yet either way, for the betterment of both sides, it might be time to just move on. Okay, be that as it may, let's try to remain civil and respectful in the comments, but let me know your thoughts on this, takeaways. Do you think it's that big of a deal, or no, not really? Now, speaking of a big deal, edge rusher Maxx Crosby signed a record $106 million contract valued at $35.5 million per year, which the reason I bring that up and the relevancy for Philly is what it means for Josh Sweat. Obviously, he's not at the level of the Condor. Yet if that's the going rate for a top pass rusher, then I think it's safe to say Sweat's about to get at least $20 million per year. And good on him, honestly, because he deserves it. But for those wondering, that more than likely prices Sweat outside of what Howie Roseman would want to pay. And realistically, based on a couple other reports, that's about where Milton Williams' contract is expected to come in at as well. Which if that were the case, then the hypothetical is that the Eagles could get 2 third-round picks back in 2026 after both players sign with different teams. I mean, if teams thought that Howie was scary in the draft, then just imagine or wait until he has 5 picks in the top 3 rounds next year. Granted, before we get there, Philly's got some work to do to backfill the pass rush this season. And I know Joey Bosa just got released from the Chargers, which, yeah, would be a dangerous addition to the D-line. Yet again, at the going rate for pass rushers and the fact that the Eagles are likely losing Sweat, I can't envision a world where Bosa makes sense if you let Sweaty go. I mean, maybe he's a little bit cheaper with some of the injuries that he suffered recently, but still, I can't envision it's in the neighborhood of being serious consideration for a guy like Bosa. And regardless, this is the same dude who got heckled to death by Philly fans. So I doubt he's even interested in returning after his introduction to the Fanatics. Now, the other name I'll throw out there is Javon Hargrave, after Jeremy Fowler reported that the 49ers will be releasing the 32-year-old and he'll be free to sign with another team next week. Obviously, Hargrave had some great seasons in Philly and even had a pretty good one in his first year in San Francisco. But coming off a torn triceps injury and at 32 makes me a little hesitant. Yes, I realize BG made it back in record time, but personally, I like the idea of keeping a youthful squad and replenishing through the draft. Or if you do want to go with a veteran presence, then maybe find someone who has a little bit more familiarity with Vic Fangio. By the way, I realize Khalil Mack's name better fits the distinction, yet I don't know if that's the most realistic option. Although we're getting very close and we'll see soon what teams start to offer there. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on the latest moves and which direction you think Howie should go to replenish the D-line. Also, if you haven't done it already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, turn the notifications on because we'll be going live for any breaking news. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.